Thousands of athletes going for the gold, and as the clear champion of the bathroom, Dollar Shave Club deserves a gold medal. Dollar Shave Club has everything you need to look, smell, and feel your best. Shampoo, body wash, toothpaste, and of course, the best razors you'll ever use. You get an amazing high-quality shave every morning from the DSC Executive Razor. Plus, the true gold standard of any morning routine is their Dr. Carver Shave Butter. It helps the razor gently glide across your skin. Dollar Shave Club delivers everything to you. That means no more trips to the store, wandering the aisles, hunting for razors, shampoo, and toothpaste, then playing cashier, scanning and bagging your stuff. Go for the gold. Join Dollar Shave Club today, and for just $5 with free shipping, you'll get the 6-blade executive razor plus trial sizes of shave butter, body cleanser, and one-wipe Charlie's. Then keep the blades coming for a few bucks more a month. Get yours at dollarshaveclub.com/Golic. That's dollarshaveclub.com/Golic.
Adnan Burke in for Trey today. We are Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Yeah. Thanks as always to Mike Golic Jr. Does a sensational job here with us on First and Last, 4 to 6 a.m. He did not get a chocolate-covered rose out the door.
He took one.
My man, he did okay.
Yeah, he took one.
My man Golic crushed it.
I did.
Right
They're
now.
hollow. I was a little disappointed.
I know. We were chastised by Hope, our wonderful makeup artist, because we didn't have enough of a, I guess in her opinion, a festive feel to Valentine's Day. So Ray Netchie went down to the cafe, picked up a few roses here. So
some chocolate roses. They're completely edible, which is fantastic. Right. He said there was only, when there were 3 of us in here, he said there was only 2 donuts with pink frosting, like Valentine's colors. Yeah. And I said, why didn't you get them? He said, because there's 3 of you. I said, we just fight for them. I said, what's the big deal?
Right. In life, not everybody gets a ribbon. Sorry.
That's exactly right. And then has to go without a donut. I mean, that's just life. I mean, that's, exactly. Things happen.
By the looks of it, he's had one too many in his life. It's about fun. He loads off a little bit.
And Cliff running the board today, playing all the love songs, hasn't had, all he says is, give me some love songs, give me some love songs. Mm-hmm. So what do? I give him love songs. I haven't heard one. Lionel Richie. Lionel Richie, some of the greatest love songs out there ever. Not one Lionel Richie, not one Whitney Houston, nothing.
Cliff, what was the latest track there?
So that was Love by Tory Lanez, but
fellow Canadian.
Which is fine. Canadians. I mean, they're all wonderful songs, but why are you asking me for input and then you don't even use it? I feel like you're management all of a sudden.
I'm not management. See, that's the thing. I'm gonna put this on management right now. How about you go talk to them about it?
Well, they're telling you not to play Lionel Richie.
All right.
Who would say don't play Lionel? Like,
who in their right mind would say that?
Think like polarizing musicians, artists. Like, all right, Lionel Richie. Like, who's going? Lionel Richie's going to push it.
Can I put a name on it right now?
Yeah.
Blame Ray Netchie.
Oh, Ray.
I like the fact Cliff calls people out. I'll give you that
me.
I like the fact he did just drop the hammer.
Do you have some Lionel Richie available for the rest of the show?
I got you. Yeah, at some point we will be playing some Lionel Richie.
All right, I appreciate that.
And you have
very
my
much.
request vis-a-vis Dan Stanzik. Hadaway, What is Love? At some point, thank you. We can get that in there as well. We want upbeat love songs today. That's kind of what we're doing. Before we bring in Keith Olbermann to talk baseball, I do want to talk a little Winter Olympics. As always, we're presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike and I are locked in. We were just talking. USA Slovakia is on right now. I know you love Olympic hockey as much as I do, but it is different when I look up there and I don't know anybody because, of course, they're not using the NHL players. So it's different in the past. I'd go, all right, Phil Kessel, Patrick Kane, etc. Now I'm going, all right, who's the American team?
No clue who they are. And listen, I was always one of those guys, give me the amateurs, let's not bring the pros in. Once obviously the pros started coming in, it's, you're not putting the toothpaste back in the tube, as they say. Mm-hmm. So I get it. But this year, obviously, with the NHL not being involved, I don't know who they are.
I remember you told me one of your favorite Olympic memories. Remember, I think it was TJ Oshie who scored the goal for the USA, that shootout goal.
Oh, shootout goal,
It was unbelievable.
Just fantastic.
People often ask me, they go, Americans into hockey, and I said, it depends. Obviously, it's a niche sport in America, but Olympics, or if USA is out there, everyone goes crazy.
What's one of the best things we're looking forward to coming to the end of these Olympics is USA Canada women's hockey.
Yeah,
for the gold.
Awesome.
And we are talking about who's going to be the face of who's going to be the marketing, who's going to win the marketing of this. Who's that successful one? Is it going to be Chloe Kim? Because at 13 she could have qualified, but she was too young for the Olympics. So maybe it's her. I started Googling greatest winter Olympic athletes ever. You know what number one is? Mm-hmm. It's who?
Apollo Antonono.
No.
Oh.
No.
Christy Yamaguchi.
It is not. Bonnie Blair. Now this, again, there's multiple. This is I believe is USA Today's.
Sure.
They have her number one, Eric Heiden number two.
Eric Heiden, yep.
Dick Button third, Apollo Ono fourth.
Right.
Shaun White, 5th. Shaun White just tied Bonnie Blair for winning a gold in 3 exact same events, 3 Olympics. Scott Hamilton, number 6. Peekaboo Street, number 7. Peggy Fleming, number 8. Dorothy Hamill, number 9. And Christy Yamaguchi, number 10.
Pretty illustrious list.
That's a pretty good list. Pretty good list.
Stuff. Well, of course, one of the great thrills here at being at ESPN, I get to work with Mike Golick, so many wonderful people. And one of the thrills, I got to fill in for Keith Olbermann 25 times on his show, and the great KO joining us now once again on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Keith, I was hoping you'd be here in studio, hitching a ride with Dave Sarosi. We crack up and catch up again. But once again, nonetheless, it is great to have you with us on ESPN Airwaves as an ESPN contributor.
Well, my pleasure, gentlemen, and I'd just like to request some Lionel Richie, if you don't mind, while we do this.
Thank you.
Back up on the Lionel Richie
I knew
train.
Keith would back me up on that one. All right, we'll get to some baseball or something like that, or football some at some point. Let's get to the real questions first. Are you a big time Olympic guy? Do you throw yourselves into these? Do you just love watching? It doesn't matter what the event is.
No, I'm probably the exact opposite end of that spectrum.
Really?
I will confess, you just dropped a name that warmed my heart, because I saw all of his medals in 1980. I was at the 1980 games. Eric Heiden. I was 21 years old, and my assignment was to cover the Olympics for United Press International, which used to be a rival to the Associated Press. And it was all. It didn't have the feel. The Olympics as a whole didn't have the feel of sort of orchestrated reality TV drama, which I just get that feeling now. Every once in a while, there'd be a great human interest story. Now it's this hockey team, every member of this team fell into a cement mixer as a child, and yet they overcame and it's everybody is overcoming obstacles, and obviously that's true about life. But I just like to see some sports, and I don't connect the Olympics with sports anymore. They've lost me somewhere along that line, and I was a huge fan after actually going to the one in 80, because that's obviously the American hockey team, and as I said, Heiden, whose skating oval was outside the window of our studio. I literally raised the window, and you're in the left-hand corner of the skating rink in Lake Placid. But it just, I'm grouchy old man this morning, but that's the way it felt.
Oh, that's a bummer, because they still have me. My heart's still there. I'm still all in. I would love to be able to cover an Olympics. We have Julie Foudy there and others, Michael Lees. I would love to be there covering that. I still love it, and I do think I could dominate at curling, though.
Yeah, we'll count out Keith for the doubles luge conversation we're going to have. But in the meantime, KO, baseball time. Nobody loves baseball. Nobody appreciates it more than you. Nobody knows more than you. This impasse right now is troubling to see so many players who have yet to find teams. Myriad of reasons for it. What do you think is the biggest reason?
Well, I would think it's the collusion more than anything else. People are reluctant to use that word, but here's the gist of it. I don't know. Sometimes I read the news and something's pretty obvious to me, and I don't see anybody else pick it up, and then I begin to think either I'm really insightful or I'm hallucinating. And I'm not saying these things are mutually exclusive. It could be both. But I think certainly people have accused me of both. The commissioner of baseball, as near as I could tell, admitted something that was a smoking gun of collusion last week, and it just sort of went past people. And I guess it's because how many people are around who covered the attempts to hinder free agency in the 80s, and I was one of them. And the smoking gun in the 1980s, and then I'll read something Rob Manfred said last week as part of his statement during this fight with the Players Association. The smoking gun in 1980, the $60 million of the original $100 million that the owners were charged with, which was then tripled to $300 million, for colluding, for preventing free agents from moving freely. The smoking gun was when they found out that the computer that the owners used when computers were still a relatively scarce thing was a database, was a resource that all teams could look into and see who had made offers to which other free agents. They all knew what their offers were. There was no competition. And if a team that had a free agent was about to lose him said, no, we want to keep him, other teams were encouraged not to make an offer for him. And so you only had 4 players moved each winter in 85, 86, and then 86, 87. And guess what? This was entirely illegal. Let me just read one thing from Rob Manfred last week, and you tell me whether or not I'm hallucinating or I'm insightful. It is common at this point in the calendar to have large numbers of free agents unsigned. That's not true, but that's besides the point. What is uncommon is to have some of the best free agents sitting unsigned, even though they have substantial offers, some in 9 figures. Now, in that quote, he doesn't say they reportedly have substantial offers, some in 9 figures. He didn't say, according to media reports. He's stating that as fact, meaning he personally knows of these offers and he knows the financial details because he can say some are in 9 figures. That means that at minimum, the owners are sharing details of what offers they have made with the commissioner's office, and that is a smoking gun. That is admitting collusion. And I mean, if you hear that, then suddenly, Arrieta and Cobb and Dyson and Gonzalez and Moustakis and J.D. Martinez and Lynn and Hosmer and everybody else who's unsigned, and it's pretty clear why that's happening. They want this to happen. I mean, they want salaries not to keep going up, which is what management usually does in business. But it's right there in front of us, I think.
So, along with that line being said, and I'm sure the union would love to prove this, and I'm sure the Scott Borises of the world would love to prove this. Would there be, certainly with that line alone, there wouldn't be enough. Do you think that collusion can be proven against baseball and the owners?
Well, again, the one thing that you can be sure of, and this goes not just from covering the last 50 years of baseball, either as somebody who's going to be a reporter or a fan or whatever, but also studying the previous 100 years history of baseball. If it's bad and you think it's not possible that it could happen, or that anybody could be stupid enough to do it again, or if somebody's cheating and trying to get around the rules in baseball, if you hear that that's the case, it's almost always turned out to be the case. That's the first thing. No matter how dumb it sounded, whether it was a player or an owner, if you hear it and it doesn't make sense, it usually means they have, in fact, done the dumb, stupid, probably illegal thing. I think it's provable because that statement then allows them in the process in which they can arbitrate these things or even sue over them. That gives them, the likelihood of being able to essentially subpoena, that's the wrong term in this, but to essentially gain access to information as to whether or not there is a computer database now in which every franchise is listing what they have offered people. I mean, the commissioner of baseball is not supposed to know of the individual dealings of teams with players, and unless he only knows one offer per a couple of teams, he's in trouble. And this is, I'm sure the Players Association has not pressed this point because they don't, to announce this, that, yes, that's collusion and that's proof of it. You're going to war, and then the agents who are behind it in the Players Association would have to be ready for, basically a walkout or whatever way they would respond to this problem. And I think they're trying to stave that off, but it's got to be obvious to them. And the fact that you have 2 all-star teams of unsigned players opening a training camp this week. I mean, no, we haven't had this situation before. The commissioner is incorrect. We haven't had this volume of unsigned players before. Maybe in terms of total numbers, but not in terms of total quality. It's madness.
Talking with Keith Olbermann, ESPN contributor right now on Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Speaking of madness, K.O., First time I met you was back in 2008, the closing of the old Yankee Stadium, and you were very generous with your time, and you were telling me how you had season tickets when you were younger, saw Mickey Mantle play, your appreciation for Joe Gordon, Reggie Jackson, all of that. And so I mentioned that preamble because as somebody who knows the Yankee fandom and appreciate their history, what do you make of Goose Gossage, which has now turned into an annual rite of spring?
Yeah.
In the past, he's hammered Mariano Rivera, he took shots at Jose Bautista, and now he's just dropping profanities about Brian Cashman. What's going on with Goose?
Well, it's not like it was in the good old days when he really used to let loose. This is, I mean, there's no way you can, I've tried a couple of times, and there's really no way you can convey this on television or on radio. So I would just encourage people to, at some point, I think it's on YouTube, just look up Goose Gossage, and the slug might be on it. The title might be Take It Upstairs to the Fat Man or something. In 1982, Rich Gossage unleashed the greatest tirade I've ever heard against anybody with reporters present. And I mean, that was an epic period in baseball history. That was when the verbiage seemed to be loaded up on whatever the equivalent of steroids would have been for people losing their minds. That's Dallas Green. That's Lee Elia. That's Tom Lasorda on Dave Kingman's performance. Rich Gossage one night in 1982 completely lost it and went berserk and attacked everybody, and it's the most outstanding expletive-filled rant of all time. And it just makes what he's saying now look like sort of, gee, he was great in the day, but he's really lost his fastball. So I hear this and I go, that's all he said, and you think that's a big deal? Plus, the other thing is, as always with him, there are truths inside what he is saying, and it gets kind of lost in the over-the-topness, something else I've been accused of. But it's just much of what he said about the Yankee organization is true. They will discard whoever they need to because they think that's going to be a controversy that they want to avoid, or they don't want to work with somebody, or for whatever reason. I mean, this is a team that I think it's now 5 years or 6 years since they suspended Reggie Jackson for not defending Alex Rodriguez sufficiently to their taste. And he was a Yankee employee, and all he said was, yes, the steroid problem was going to put a shadow, or the PED problem was going to put a shadow over his Hall of Fame candidacy, which was a nice way of saying what the truth was, which was Alex was never going to get into Hall of Fame. And the Yankees suspended Reggie Jackson for doing this. And they have a habit of bringing the old-timers back for spring training and then one day during the season and pretty much exploiting them. And I think Rich's personal argument and complaint about how he has been treated was valid. Some of the individual criticisms are, in fact, cranky old man stuff. But, is it in fact, is relief pitching the same thing as it was in his day? No, it was not. It was more arduous in the 1970s and the 1980s than it is now. And there's not really been an acceptance of this. He had to fight many years to get into the Hall of Fame because people couldn't see the total number of saves, and they were much lower than Mariano's and other guys. So there's a lot of truth in what he's saying, and I'm disappointed that he's only used that many expletives in that period of time. And if you listen to that tape, you'll know what I'm saying.
He's capable of much better, is what you're telling me. We're all thrilled here, Keith, as far as Baseball Tonight alumni, that Alex Cora is now the manager of the Boston Red Sox.
Seriously.
And Aaron Boone is now the manager of the New York Yankees. And I know you know Booney well, and his father, Bob.
Since he was 13. I met Aaron Boone when he was 13.
You've known him forever, and you and I can both attest to the fact that there's nobody that dislikes Aaron Boone. He gets along with everybody, and I understand it's his first time doing the gig, and we're all well aware of whatever mistakes a neophyte can make, but Aaron always perseveres. He's the ultimate winner, and I think those personal relationships will guide him well in this job. What was your reaction when you heard he's the manager of the New York Yankees?
Well, again, my first reaction was, I met the manager of the Yankees when he was 13. My God, I'm old. But the second one was, it was kismet, because I had said to somebody a couple of weeks earlier, somebody, in fact, in management at ESPN, I said, the only thing that's wrong with Aaron on the air is that he sounds like he's really upset that he's not getting to make these managerial decisions. And next thing you know, he's the manager of the Yankees. I mean, I'm sure he'll do well, and I'm sure I think he may have made a mistake yesterday, but I don't know that he's going to repeat it. I think he understands what it was. This press conference that he had where he said that the Yankees should embrace the expectations, and everybody thinks they're the World Series favorite, or at least the American League East favorite, or whatever. And it's like, just get a couple games under your belt here, even in spring training, before you go out and say that, because things have a way of evening out, not from day to day, not from week to week, not over the course of the season, but over a career, things even out. The Yankees had a lot of things that went right for them last year, and the two guys who were supposed to dominate the American League East had a lot of things that went right for them last year, in Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. And I wonder about whether or not, statistically and odds-wise, whether or not things work against those two guys in the year ahead. I mean, the idea is like, well, we're the best team in baseball, and we should accept that challenge, and we should go forward, might come across as kind of brazen under the circumstances. But, I think he'll be fine, and I think the team will be fine. But if George Steinbrenner were alive and the Yankees now don't win their first 10 games, Aaron would be in trouble. And I think it's nice that he's in a slightly gentler organization at this point.
Keith Olbermann joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Now to the biggest question of the morning, your thoughts on Flynn the Bichon Frise winning Best in Show in the Westminster last night over my personal favorite, because I own two of them, Biggie the Pug.
Well, I am sitting here on my couch with my two small white dogs, and they are recuperating from the hangover after they went out and celebrated last night because small white dog was Best of Show at Madison Square Garden. It's always, I'm going to leave the guy's name out of it because I've hated him for years and he's hated me for years. But the play-by-play announcer on Fox last night was complaining about the choice as they're bringing Flynn up onto the stage. And he's going, I don't think people at home would have him maybe more higher than number 5. It's like, there's not gambling on this. This is all of those dogs out there. Literally, I've covered years ago. I covered it for CNN, and I went out there and did 3 days worth of reporting. And there's 300 dogs there that you would say, could I walk off with this dog and would anybody notice? They're all fantastic purebred dogs, and I thought it was also good that when they finally opened the microphone for the judge. I finally got past that moment that the judge was able to make a tribute to all dogs and mixed breeds and everything else. I think, eventually, and I'm hoping this is the case, eventually there will be an added category in there in which we have rescue dogs. And we have, shelter dogs, and we have three-legged dogs, and we get a little bit away from the pure breeding or open up the definitions a little bit. And yes, having not had a dog until I was 53 years old, I have become a total dog person. And if I don't stop now, I will talk you through till you hang up on me.
Oh, listen, dogs. Keith, I do it forever. I've been a dog owner all my life. There were 2,882 entries in the 202 breeds, and I'm with you, too. Instead of just the purebreds all the time, I would love, my dog. Bring my 3 dogs in there, and I'd love the regular dog to have a chance to win this thing. I'd just be afraid of what they would do on the floor at Madison Square Garden.
I work with a bunch of shelters, and the thing is about dogs and people these days, as injured dogs and dogs that have, there was a place I work with in El Paso and another one in Los Angeles that kind of specialize in injured dogs, or dogs that have sight in one eye or have just the 3 legs. And I'm not trying to encourage this to happen by any stretch of the imagination, but the odds of getting a home for those dogs are probably slightly greater than the ones that are fully functional and fully, physically. People are really looking at these situations and saying, if I'm going to have a home for a dog, I'm going to make it a dog that needs a home and needs a little of my help in addition to all the help that dogs provide us. So I think that's the next thing. And I also think if they want to mainstream, if they want to look at that as a television event, if they want to encourage gambling, open it up to have not just the beautiful purebred dogs with the fancy names and the giant space helmet hair like Flynn the Bichon had last night. Let's have a category of dogs that were saved from the streets or were saved from accidents. I think it'd be cool. Just magnificent. Wouldn't it be great?
I think it'd be very cool, yeah.
Dog lover, baseball lover, ESPN contributor. Great to have Keith Olbermann back with us. Still the red pen. Many thanks,
and in that order.
There you go. Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Good to talk to you guys.
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for the Golick Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Hello, I'd like to deposit this to checking.
Fate is a fickle master.
What?
The future is uncertain.
Okay, and what's my account balance?
The horizon is cloudy. I see a long, treacherous voyage filled with great peril.
Look, can I just get a deposit slip or something?
A fortune bank teller. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I see a yellow-eyed serpent and a low APR.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
There we go.
Special request, not only Mike Golick, but Keith Olbermann on the Lionel Richie train here in honor of Valentine's Day.
How can it be a special request? He asked for love songs on Valentine's Day. Whitney Houston, Lionel Richie, and all of a sudden we're not getting them played. I mean, what the hell's going on?
I'm guessing, because Cliff threw Ray Netchie under the bus.
Yeah.
Ray's currently in control. I just saw Ray kind of do like a pop, pop, pop. I think his feel is you want upbeat.
Ray wants
music.
upbeat.
I think that's what
Ray, you know what you can do? Get out of the room.
Oh,
go.
Geez.
Go.
Listen, Ray's a
Go.
big music guy, though. He gave some
I'm going to throw something at you.
He can give some good choices of
No.
music.
All the love songs have to be upbeat. Give me a break.
Yeah, it's peppy.
Love song, man.
Hey,
You
Golick.
love, yeah.
Ray says, go ahead and try. There's a glass wall in between you two.
You know what? There's a door here and then a door there. I go through two doors. I'm going through you, my friend.
Love it. Happy Valentine's Day to all. Adnan
So I'm
Verkeen.
talking about beating up Ray on Valentine's Day.
Exactly.
I apologize.
No, there's,
I'm sorry.
There's nothing fair in love
Yeah,
anymore,
how about
as they
that?
say. Adnan Verkeen for Trade Today. Golick and Wingo on ESPN Radio on ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. Great to have NBA analyst Tim Legler joining us in studio, giving the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Happy Valentine's Day, Legs.
Happy Valentine's Day to you guys, man.
Are you,
Valentine's Day gets beat up a little bit.
Are you?
Does get beat up.
I like it, man.
You do?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I really do.
You do.
I like, you know, I guess I'm a hopeless romantic, you know?
It does get beat up, Legs. I was making the point earlier. People must have loved it when they invented it. Now people crush it.
They just kill it. Oh, it's just a stupid
Paul,
holiday
who
made
likes
up
it
for
more?
people to make money.
Who likes it more, you or your wife?
We both like it equally.
You do?
Yeah, and I actually like it. I really enjoy. I have a nice day usually with my daughter too. Like, you know,
See, I do as well. I always send my daughter flowers as well.
Absolutely.
But I always thought that whoever liked it more out of the couple, that's the person you had to appease the most. Like, if you didn't like it, but your significant other did like it, well, then you had to like it.
No, we
right?
both like it, but one thing we do agree on is we don't go like over the top with gifts and all that. It's just a nice night, usually romantic dinner, kind of just the two of us. That's usually what we do.
Right, there you go.
We're good with that. A nice card, you know.
There you go.
Exactly. It's a thoughtful holiday, right? That's all.
Just remind each other, you know.
Exactly.
Could all use a good reminder every now and then.
The Cavaliers don't need a reminder that after these trades, everyone's all in on them again. They scored 120 points, a franchise record, fourth straight game. Here's a number that stood out, Legs. LeBron James paced all scorers with 37, but the Cavs bench outscored the Thunder reserves by 31. That's the largest bench scoring differential by a LeBron James team in his career. How vital is that for this team?
Critical. Tyronn Lue hit it on the head after the game when he said it's nice to have so many guys that can dribble, pass, and shoot. I mean, it sounds basic, but that's exactly what you're talking about when you describe a team like Golden State. They got more guys than any team in the league that can make plays. And they didn't have enough of that in Cleveland. They had a lot of one-dimensional offensive players. Mm-hmm. Everything built around LeBron James' greatness, and then a bunch of guys that did one thing. Either, you know, you were a slasher diver that had to get offensive rebounds like a Tristan Thompson, or for the most part, a bunch of guys that stood around and just shot three-point shots. When you add guys like Jordan Clarkson, you add Hood, these are guys that can, George Hill, they can make plays off the dribble, they can spot up, catch, and shoot, they can slash, they can find people, and then you add a guy like Nance who, the day he walks in the locker room, is all of a sudden your best front court athlete at the 4 or 5 position. And so they've just given them so much more depth, a completely different look on both ends of the floor. And you're talking about the offensive numbers, but defensively, it's night and day what we saw from this team in the first half of the year.
So as we look at them trying to figure everything out, of the 4 new ones, George Hill the only starter, but Hood, Clarkson, and Nance coming off the bench have gotten more minutes in this last game than everybody except for LeBron and J.R. Smith. Do you see this lineup, not that the starting lineup is the end-all, be-all, but do you see more shifting to the starting lineup in minutes as they go on?
You know, I'm not sure about that, but I do know that what I'm seeing for longer stretches in the game are lineups that they put out there that are all built around quickness and versatility defensively, where they have 4 similar-sized players that can switch everything. They didn't have that luxury. I mean, the lineups they've been putting out there, even the teams that have gone to the finals, they struggled with it, but was really bad at the start of this year with some of the guys they had out there and how slow they were, how small they were, and really just limits what you can do defensively. So now they go through long stretches where they can literally switch at 4 different positions, maybe even 5. If Nance is at the center, he did it a few times last night in the fourth quarter, switched on a ball screen, and he didn't give up anything because he's quick enough to slide his feet. And if he does get beat, he's athletic enough to recover and still contest a shot at the rim. So that's what's been interesting to me, is to watch the transformation to a team that can actually get after you a little bit in the half court. They weren't doing that at all. They weren't pressuring the ball. They were really reactive to what you wanted to do. Now dictating it a little bit more. Here's what we're going to do to you defensively, and you've seen it now, at least through 2 games, and it's paying great dividends, these moves they made on last Thursday.
Tim Legler right now in studio, Gola Kawingo. Legs shot 52% from 3 in 95-96, which is when you won the 3-point contest. 3rd highest percentage ever in a single season, and highest for a player who shot at least 200 threes in a season. I say that because the Rockets had 10 threes in the fourth quarter last night. That's matching the most in a fourth quarter in NBA history. They've got 7 games with at least 23 pointers. How crazy is that, Mike?
Yeah, it's incredible. They're incredible offensively. And if you were to compare it to a football team, you'd say, imagine a football team that lined up and ran the same play every snap, and you couldn't stop it. Because that's literally what they do. They have one set, a high ball screen. And whether it's Harden with the ball or Chris Paul with the ball, that's all they run. Either Clint Capella sets it or Ryan Anderson or Nene, whoever it may be, and then they just spot you up with 3-3-point shooters. But the 2 guys with the ball are so good at running ball screen and forcing you into having to help and recover. They kick it out and they just beat you up from the 3-point line. It's really kind of fascinating to watch. Now, will that translate to a team that can get it done when you play an elite team like Golden State down the road, potentially in the conference finals? Remains to be seen, but at least in a regular season, this is a team that's really virtually impossible to defend because you just don't have enough time to go over all your coverages when you've got one practice or one film session, and now here you are, you're playing the Houston Rockets there in front of your face.
So in a different way to ask the exact same question, we've talked about Houston, we talked about Cleveland. I'm telling you right now, Golden State is going to lose in the playoffs, whether it's in the Western Conference Finals or the Finals. Which team will beat them? Which team has the best chance to beat them?
Probably Cleveland. Now with the way that they look. I think they went overnight. They went from a team that I thought was going to get beat in the second round to a team that I think is going to be back in the finals again. I just think Houston plays too similar a style and a pace for the Golden State Warriors. And if you try to play the same kind of game, nobody has the weapons.
And they're deeper than you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they do more than just, their role players do more than just catch and shoot threes. There are guys that can attack you off the dribble, and the way they move the ball with, the greatest shooting team that we've ever seen. I think Houston's going to have a hard time getting by Golden State. So I think Cleveland might be more built to do that now because at the end of the day, they still have something very unique. They have LeBron James. Nobody else in the league has one of those. So I would go with Cleveland.
Doing a Twitter view with Legs. Couple minutes here. These tweets through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Legs, Mike wants to know, hashtag Twitter view, is there any chance the Knicks are not a joke within the next 5 years?
Yeah, there's a chance, but it's going to completely hinge around Kristaps Porzingis coming back, making it all the way back. And, that first year is going to be rough. So if he's out a calendar year, he comes back next February. Well, don't expect too much the rest of the season next year. So you're really talking about the following season. And if he makes it all the way back, yes, there is a chance. And you do have hope. It's going to take that, though, at the top of the list. Mm-hmm. Neil Aquina is going to have to develop at a rapid pace next season. While Porzingis is out, you need to see massive growth out of him in the offseason and a much more complete player next year because he was a lottery pick. And so you can't whiff on those. He's a guy that's got to take a big step forward. So there's a chance, and you can always make up ground quicker in the East than you can the West.
Yep.
So I just gave Knicks fans hopefully a lot of hope, but it's going to be a couple of years away minimum because it's all going to hinge around Porzingis, and he just won't be the same player until probably the year after next.
All right, Frank, we already answered your question. You asked, is the hype of the new look Cavs too early? Well, we've kind of answered that. So a couple of more quickies. What's your favorite Valentine's Day candy?
It's easy. It's the candy hearts, but it's the big ones. I hate the small ones. They're way too crunchy.
Right.
The big ones are softer. And my wife will tell you.
More chew. Okay, gotcha.
It's a joke how badly I go through those things.
Really?
When she loads up, she must get 10 bags of those things for the month.
Really?
And then they're just constantly.
For the entire month. So you don't just eat them on Valentine's Day.
Oh,
it's
no.
Okay.
No, that discount tomorrow.
Yeah, that starts around February 1.
Okay.
I treat that similar to Halloween and Christmas. That's a month-long thing. And I'm just constantly, every time I walk by that candy dish on the island in the kitchen, I'm grabbing 3.
That's
typically what I do.
Well, and speaking of grabbing 3, Monty wants to know, where do you keep your 3-point shootout trophy?
I keep that in I guess you would call it like an entertainment center in a room in my house. It's a big glass window. Keep it in there. And my friends, late night when I have them over and we're hanging out a little bit, having some fun, typically we'll do something with it and desecrate it in some way and take really weird pictures with it. Yeah, it's ended up in a lot of strange photos.
Do you remember all the participants? Or most of them?
I could probably get him. Yeah, it would take some time. I know I beat Dennis Scott in the finals.
Dennis Scott, you beat in the final.
I know Steve Kerr was in it.
Yep.
I know Cliff Robinson was in it.
Right.
Hubert Davis was in it.
George McLeod.
Dana
Barros.
Oh, I forgot
and
Dana.
Glenn Rice.
I knew that's right. Glenn Rice was the defending champ.
Scott, McLeod, and Kerr made it to the semis. Then you and Dennis Scott made it to the finals. You're still the only person to score over 20 points in all 3 rounds. Now, I believe they just do 2. Last year, it was Eric Gordon that won. He did 3 rounds, but one was a tiebreaker.
Gotcha, yeah.
Tiebreaker round.
So I think that record is safe, 65 points over 3 rounds.
65 points, 23, 22, and 20. Still the only one to go over 20 in 3 rounds.
And they did change the rules now because you can get 34
off the money balls
for a
now.
perfect
Crazy,
round because
right?
they added 4 money balls to your favorite spot.
And what was your perfect round?
30. 30 was the highest you could get.
So you could score less, but you still hold the record. So this new 3-point shooting stuff, they got nothing
Forever
on
the
you.
champ, Tim Legler.
That's exactly
Thanks
right.
a lot, Legs.
Thanks, Legs.
Thanks to Cliff for hooking me up. How do I? What is love was my request
There you go.
today. Yeah, crank that sucker up.
I still can't believe we've had one Lionel Richie song and no Whitney Houston songs. It's a joke.
Still got time. I never work in for trades. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. How's this for a mea culpa and coming clean?
Okay.
Woman felt remorse for stealing a bar of soap when she was 12. And so the woman's surname QU, now 30, arrived at a department store with 100 bars of perfume soap, the same kind she had shoplifted 18 years ago. She explained that at the time her mother had really wanted the papaya-scented soap but couldn't afford it.
Right.
This has been a weight on my heart all these years, she told the store employee, because it's the worst thing I've done in my life. Store's owner was deeply moved by the gesture and paid the soap forward to sanitation workers free of charge. And Q said the whole experience has been very therapeutic. Last year I was suffering from depression, but now I'm better. Now I treat every day as if it was my last. 1 bar of soap she took. Here's 118 years later.
Well, what I took out of that story is her saying that's the worst thing she's ever done in her life. We could only hope to have that kind of life, huh? The worst thing you do is take a bar of soap?
Right.
Holy smokes.
You think about, kids
that's
being
like
kids.
sainthood, isn't it? I mean,
right.
Really?
If that's the worst you've done, you go ahead and go right to the pearly gates.
You're not kidding.
Yeah. So that's
Wow.
her whip. I just think it's interesting to go 100. Like, I thought if you just,
that's really making up for it, huh?
I was about to say, if you just returned 1, the gesture's clear. Like,
she went 100-fold.
No, I'm going 100-fold to make up for this. Coming up next hour, by the way, we're going to talk to Katie Nolan, Valentine's Day edition of Love It or Shove It. So that's coming up around 10 minutes from now. But did want to just revisit for a couple minutes, Mike, this whole issue of Steve Kerr and the fact that he let his players run a couple plays. And Tim Legler, who we just had on, Legs is always a great asset to the show and to the company, was telling us he did have an issue with it. And he was critical of it on ESPN Airwaves yesterday, as he was telling us. It's not the fact that he did it, the players ran some plays. He goes, but just the fact that Kerr seems to be so sensitive to it. The fact that he took criticism for it. He said, it's not like, he goes, to really empower the players, that would be at a practice saying, hey, you know what, you guys come up with a couple of sets and then you guys run it. That is actually empowering your players and giving them freedom. He goes, 90 seconds of giggling through a timeout, that's not doing anything. And he goes, I have no issue with running up score. I don't believe in that stuff. You're a professional athlete, do what you want.
Yeah.
And he said, I thought the Suns handled it fine. You win at all costs. He goes, but I just don't get why Kerr's getting praised for it as if it's a revolutionary idea. It's ridiculous.
I am stunned where this has gone.
Yeah.
I gave my opinion on it, and I give my opinion. That's why I think it's right. I think that's what happened. That's why I give my opinion.
Yeah.
This was halfway through the season. You're destroying an opponent.
Right.
You're breaking up monotony and have a little bit of fun. To think that this is some revolutionary thing that other coaches are going to start doing it, and Steve Kerr is this visionary for doing it, to me is laughable. Laughable. He couldn't get up there at the end of the game and say, I was doing it because it's monotony. We're killing these guys. I'm letting my guys have some fun. Right. So he comes up with the team is the players, and that whole philosophy.
Right.
This was nothing. Nothing. This was them having some fun during a game because they're blowing out an opponent. It's not going to start a trend. Right. Players aren't going to start writing up plays. And so what? Legler's right when he was talking to us off air. Have some guys do something in practice. Right. Do something meaningful and with meat in practice that carries over into a game. I can't believe all the press this is getting like this is some revolutionary thing that's going to keep happening. Yeah. This was some fun they were having on a mid-season night.
Taking a back seat instead he's the forefront. Much more coming up. Golic and Wingo.